But first, today was supposed to be all about Labor's first big idea of the campaign. Instead, it became another day dogged by Anthony Albanese's ignorance of his own policies. Here he is, asked about Labor's six-point plan to fix the NDIS, and he draws a blank, despite claiming the NDIS is one of the most important issues of this election.
Yesterday, you talked about Labor's six-point plan. What are the 6 points?
The 6 points are what we will do in terms was outlined by Bill Shorten.
No, Mr Albanese, what are the other 5 points, Mr Albanese?
It is all around the theme of putting people.
You are across your brief.
We will put people at the centre of the NDIS.
And as if the fudge wasn't bad enough, he backed it up with this, needing a staffer to hand in the cheat sheets and then trying to pretend to a pack of journalists that what they saw didn't really happen.
Just to clarify, do you not know what the 6 points are for the NDIS question that Mr Kersley just asked you? But also, sorry,
policy document.
Is this a sign that you don't know what one of your policy is?
Are they the 6 points?
Are these the 6 points here that had to be handed to you by your advisor?
Mr Albanese, that's right.
Did you just ask? We just saw you.
It was dubbed Albanese's Jamie Diaz moment after the Liberal candidate a few elections back, who cited the coalition's six-point plan to stop the boats, but then couldn't remember what the 6 points were. But Albanese isn't Diaz. This is the bloke who wants to run our country. And yet again, he demonstrates why he's not up to the job. On Breakfast TV this morning, the pressure really got to him.
Look, I mean, the question is, though, you want to be the next Prime Minister. You want to run the country. Shouldn't you be across your briefs?
I am, Ali. I am. Stop reading from the Liberal Party notes that they send through to people all of the time, Ali. This is just an absurdity.
A little later on Sydney Radio, the Defence Minister, Peter Dutton, nailed it.
Either he doesn't read these documents or he doesn't care to read them, and either or. I think you want something better in Prime Minister of this country than that scenario. And he now surrounds himself, of course, with shadow ministers at this press conference, at his press conferences, so that when he gets a question he can't answer, then he throws to, that shadow minister. But I've got to say, I never saw Julia Gillard do that.
This is the Labor leader's latest tactic, of course, after his shocking first week. This is how they're now playing media events. One question per journalist, no follow-ups, press conferences cut short if they get too willing, all designed to try and protect Albanese from himself. And using his shadow ministers, of course, as cover. This week alone, he's passed questions to Jim Chalmers on the economy. He's fobbed off others about housing because he just doesn't know the detail of his own policies.
And then we have to go join the march. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Anthony.
At the moment, you and others are getting tax breaks on properties.
I'll happy to hear. Yeah. Albo can supplement. Yeah, sure, but Albo can supplement.
We do that. Thanks very much.
Albanese might be 20 years younger than Joe Biden, but his constant failure to get across the detail is Bidenesque. And it's this unfamiliarity with his own policies that's become a campaign motif for the Labor leader. Is a Biden-style prime ministership where we're headed? Where the bloke on top makes a few pronouncements, maybe gives a press conference every couple of weeks, but other more engaged people call the shots and make the running. But back to Labor's big idea today, namely universal childcare. Now, I'm in favour of giving families choice and helping women to be able to juggle work and family. Families on modest incomes, that's going to mean help with childcare costs. And it should mean support for informal care by other family members, as well as formal care in centres with lots of unionised staff. The system we've got, though, is complex, very expensive, and incentivises private childcare providers to increase their fees every single time taxpayers chip in more. Right now, federal government childcare subsidies cost $10 billion a year, and they're paid via a very complicated means test and only cut out where household incomes of the family hit $300,000 $354,000 a year. Now that's right, I'm not making this up. This is $354,000 a year. If that's what they earn, explain to me why taxpayers should be giving these households a subsidy, particularly when I can think of a lot of other areas that need decent funding. Under Labor's plan released today, they want to increase the maximum childcare subsidy to 90% and slow the taper rate, which it's claimed will make childcare cheaper for 96% of families at a cost of just over $1 billion a year. There's also a request to the Productivity Commission to investigate a universal 90% subsidy, a kind of Medicare for childcare, if you like, that the government has estimated would cost another $6 billion a year. Now, by far the simplest thing to do in this area, given the billions and billions we're now spending, would be to work with the education sector, public and private schools, and encourage primary schools across the country to expand and set up universal kinder. We've already got a comprehensive network of schools. It'll make life a hell of a lot easier for parents and taxpayers, and it will leave childcare centres to then focus their services on that 0 to 2-year-old age bracket. We need new thinking about childcare because as it stands, it's just more and more money going out with prices increasing as fast as the subsidies get announced. If we don't take the time to rethink this, then we're just creating yet another budget black hole. Look at the NDIS. Good idea, but badly designed. Almost impossible to reform and already costing more than Medicare. It'll end up costing more than defence and health combined, say the projections. And while I'm at it, it's about time people had a reality check about what actually gives us the tax revenue to deliver all of these social welfare programs. Later in the show, I'll speak with Lucas Dow from Adani about the problems that coal miners are having in getting insurance. That's a big issue here too. We're quick to demonise coal, aren't we? But it's what helps us afford the very high standard of living we have here in Australia. With only 2 and a bit weeks to go in the election, I reckon it's about time we spend as much effort explaining where, as a country, we get our money from as we've been doing on spending it. After all, it's not as if any of the money we're spending is in the bank, is it? It's all borrowed money. And in the end, we've got to be able to pay it back. Sadly, living within our means isn't something anyone wants to talk about very much at all in this campaign.